Can you please claim him? I don't need another hunter swooping in.
Who is swooping? No one is crazy enough to go there.
He clearly is.
He is clearly desperate.
And so am I, so claim him, or I will find another agent.
So a lot of people have been talking about the intergalactic trailer, and I decided to jump in on the discussion, but not for the same discussion. It's not for the same reason everybody else is. Obviously, the character doesn't seem very likable. The game doesn't seem very interesting to me. Even though I like space-oriented games, she is annoying enough that I don't want to have anything to do with her. It feels like they're trying to pull off of Star-Lord. I don't know what they're doing, but she just doesn't seem very likable. And a lot of people are saying that her character looks very ugly. Now, I actually am going to have the unpopular opinion, and I'm gonna say that her face, she's not ugly per se. I think the character model and her design and her style, along with her attitude, is what makes her ugly. But if this person was a nice person and really likable and was very sweet, okay, all right, okay, maybe this frame right here looks off. Yeah, okay, I can kind of see what, okay, the point of the matter is, it got me thinking. A lot of us make fun of modern games being ugly in terms of their character models. What exactly makes the characters ugly? What is ugly about them? Why do we look at certain modern day characters or even old characters or graphics and deem it ugly? And that's what I wanted to discuss today and try to break it down, because I think when we try to tell people that something looks uncanny, they look at us like we're insane, but I can't really completely blame them either, because they're probably confused and they're not seeing what we're seeing, or they're not exposed to the same level of these ugly models that, hold on, is that freaking Dinesh? Dude, that's totally Dinesh from Silicon Valley. Dude, same nose and everything. His eyes, the eyebrows, the whole profile, his facial structure, the lips, that is 100% Dinesh. Wow. Wonder what role he's gonna be playing in there, poor man. Anyway, yes, let's delve into what makes something ugly and why is it that people, gamers, not just the guys, but us girls too, are so obscenely obsessed with characters looking so, you see? Yo, okay, see, he's blushing too. As with his friend, I see you, dude. You're totally gooning for that guy. You try to hide it. Everyone's not, and most people aren't anyway. So let's talk about biology and biological wiring. I know that's a trigger word for a lot of people nowadays, but it's not meant to be an insult. It's meant to showcase the beauty of the world that we live in. Biology means, or is defined as, the science of life and living organisms. In simpler terms, it's the study of life, and with that comes life's behaviors. How animals and organisms behave and why they behave like that. If we look at our DNA and our biological makeup, or what makes us us, what makes us tick, we are separated by species based on those programmed behaviors. When you look at animals who are about to mate, for example, birds mating, most humans universally agree that most birds and their colors and their plumage are very pretty, very beautiful. Bird songs are very melodious. Animals, when choosing a mate, like birds, will show off their plumage, and females will choose them or reject them based on how pretty they think they are or ugly they think they are. Sometimes it's in terms of the fittest. Sometimes their plumage, or oftentimes what they view in terms of attraction, tells the female and the male that they're suitable mates for each other. This is how animals survive. It's how we have become a species, a successful species. We say, that man is very fit and strong. He can provide for me, protect me and our children, and give us good genes so that our descendants can survive. What in the blowjob is going on here? See, this female bird is looking at the male and is like, he eats that. Okay, never mind, sorry. I was gonna go somewhere completely inappropriate with it. But that's kind of what's happening here. She's looking at him is like, he eats my candy so good. And he's dancing, got them steps, yes. And he's thinking, yeah, girl, you like them colors? You like the way I fucking swag? Sorry, I never said it was gonna be professional.
Oh my God.
So just like over time, animals might learn to adapt and know what to appreciate in terms of fitness based on their environment, humans, as humans are animals as well, can also adapt different preferences when it comes to fitness and beauty. For example, if humans were to suddenly live in a world where strength was important. They had to lift rocks or scale mountains or fight really large animals, then fitness for women would look for or require them to look for men that were super strong and not really skinny and fast, but more so bulky. However, if humans start adapting for a biome or environment that requires them to be very fast and cover more ground, then what's going to happen is that people are going to start to prefer the longer and lankier men because they are fitter and better suited for their environment and finding food. It makes sense because over time, that specific tribe of humanity are mostly going to look like Na'vi. And the tallest and the fastest and the ones able to cover the most ground and have the most endurance are going to be seen as physically fit. The thing is, humans, like other animals, are naturally wired to find certain traits attractive because that's how they signal their fitness and ability to survive. If you have super fat human beings who are really slow and have a bunch of illnesses because of their weight, they're not going to be seen as desirable by the majority of their species. That's because the body type or that body type is associated with illness, a lack of fitness, and a lower chance of survival. On the flip side, I'd imagine for whales it's the opposite. Having more blubber is critical for their survival, so it would make more sense that a male who is fast, strong, and has more fat reserves would actually be more attractive to females in that species. For the same reason, if you see a man who's super skinny and anorexic looking, that's often associated with illness or malnutrition, and most people won't find it attractive. That doesn't mean nobody would. It's true that there's something for everyone, but it's not what the majority of human species is wired or hardwired to prefer. Just look at this video of fruit. You find it beautiful, aesthetically pleasing, right? You look at this and you're like, scrumptious. You don't look at this and you're like, ugh, I want to puke. I mean, that's not the norm. Humans look at things and decide something doesn't look good because we're genetically programmed through evolution to recognize what's not ideal for our species. For example, if you see someone with one eye, one arm, and a bunch of missing teeth and poor hygiene, your instincts, wired into your DNA, are gonna tell you that something is wrong. The smell of that person, you're gonna look at them first before you smell them. You might think, maybe it's not a good idea to breed with this person because they might not be able to protect me or my offspring. For animals, it's not even that deep. They're just hardwired, especially the visual ones, like humans, to find certain traits beautiful because those traits represent the best chance of survival and spreading their genes. Now, yes, I understand that beauty is in the eye of the beholder until the thing that you're beholding makes you want to slap it off the face of the earth. Now, I'm going to show you something here in a second, and I want you to take a look at it.
Oh!
I want you to behold this picture and tell me, well, you can't tell me, but think to yourself and tell yourself, right off the bat, having seen it, what was the reaction you got from it? Is it beautiful? Do you want to kiss those lips? Does it make you want to suck on its nose? Do you want to neck it? Do you want to undress it with your eyes? Do you want to put your fingers in each of those ear holes and start spinning it around until you get a ice cream cone of earwax on your fingers and then put those down your throat hole? Doesn't make you want to do any of those things, does it? Do you want to probably squat down behind it and take a big whiff of whatever it lets out of its ass when it breaks wind? No? Then you probably are not attracted to it. Okay. Pause. I don't mean that if you're attracted to something, you do those things. So I don't even know what the point of all that was. The point of the matter is, sometimes attraction makes people do weird things. Not that I would do any of those things. I'm not saying I do any of these things, because I know you people are gonna... Moving on. You know exactly what I meant. Stop. If you feel uncomfortable or not attracted to that or extremely unattracted to it, it is safe to say you believe it is ugly. Ugliness is basically when something or someone is unpleasant to look at and leaves a bad impression, and it's all about being visually unattractive, unpleasing, or even repulsive. Words like hideous or unsightly describe this, and there are more casual terms that we use like, oh, it's a turnoff, or damn, you looking rough. When it comes to human appearance, the way we perceive beauty is shaped by natural selection, like I said before, because it is tied to reproductive success. If it wasn't successful over many years of evolution, we wouldn't have those feelings. Men and women have different ways of trying to look attractive and different preferences of what they find attractive or appealing, but across all cultures, people generally agree on who's attractive and who is not. Attractive people also tend to do better in life because they gain more resources and have more reproductive success. Unless you're turning into a different species, you're gonna look at something like this and say, wow, that's unattractive. But if every one of this thing's species looks like this, he might be the most attractive person to them. But for human beings, which is who we're talking about right now, this universally can be seen as unattractive. Our brain, ew, god damn. Ugh. Anyway, like I was saying, what is this? Ew, this is so disgusting. It's making me upset. Yeah, back to this one. It's the best one out of all of them. So yeah, our brains use different systems to judge attractiveness, right? One is to recognize faces. Is that thing a human being? Can I breed with it? Another is to interpret the features, right? That's basically what that is. Like, does it have two eyes? Are they looking at me? Can they see? Another is to assign a value to what we see. So key factors include age, health, symmetry, that's a very important one, proportions, skin color, and texture, things that are hard to fake and show good genes or fitness. That's why they're considered attractive. And I put color in there because you'll probably notice that maybe a lot of people are not exposed to this, but there are even situations where people go to countries where the people all share the same skin color. And for example, this clip I've seen a long time ago, the head is shaved, but this is a little girl, and she is being brought to this white guy. Mind you, she's never seen a white person in all of her little life. So she is absolutely terrified. Imagine what it would have looked like if you're white skinned to see a dark skinned person for the first time walking up to you when you've never seen something like that, or a dark skinned person seeing a white skinned person for the first time, completely cut off from society, and you just see this for the first time. It doesn't look like any of you, and you're like, holy shit, what is that? It looks like a ghost. So just look at her interaction and you can see the complete terror.
She's scared of you. She's crying.
She's scared.
Maria, you come. No.
See, they can all laugh because they've seen white-skinned people. They know that, oh, they're humans. They just look different because they come from a different place. No biggie. They can all laugh and feel silly about it and realize how ridiculous it is because they're not ignorant. But to this little girl, the terror is very much real. How many of you, if you're walking outside right now, whether it be light or dark, and you see a headless person coming towards you that looks like they're covered in charred meat, if you wouldn't run screaming in your house or take out your freaking 12 gauge? And meanwhile, the headless thing is just a regular organism that's like, what the frick is that person's problem? This is how we look where I come from. We smell like human barbecue and we don't have heads. What is your issue? And anybody who knows that a species like that exists is not going to think anything of it. But to this little girl, he's ugly. He's terrifying because he doesn't look like everybody else. She doesn't know any better. And his features don't match the features that she's used to seeing. To her, he's a monster.
She's scared of the camera. Come. You come, baby. Don't be scared. Utakuja tugenda mkwate. Tugenda mkwate. Come. Takuja mzungu takuja. Naam. Takuja ndani. Tugeni.
He's trying to look so non-threatening, but the way he's standing behind the tree, just like... I'm seeing it from her point of view, and I'm like, okay, I can kind of imagine how terrifying that would look, because she's like, yeah, something's wrong with that one. It doesn't look normal. She didn't recognize that. And kudos to this little girl for trying to face her fears, and the adults also for reinforcing that it's okay, it's fine. Look, the rest of us are standing around him. It's okay. And she is terrified. But then the instinct takes over for survival to stay away from what she doesn't look like.
Alright. It's okay.
I understand how terrifying this must be for her, but notice how her family is forcing the interaction because they're basically telling her, look, we're telling you it's okay. Stop being ignorant. This is fine. This is one of our species. He just looks different. It doesn't mean he's a monster. He's not going to eat you. See? He's not eating any of us. Now, over time, if he were to integrate into their society, they might still see him as weird looking because he doesn't look like the rest of them, but they might not any longer see him as ugly. However, in their specific circle, because they're surrounded by people who look like them, their level of what they find attractive probably is not going to be him. They're not used to that. That's not mainstream where they live. They might find him attractive in other ways, resources, if he's a man that can provide, or they might see him as a loser because he can't hunt and bring down a big animal or run for many miles like the people in this village can. In every other country where people are not sitting at desks all day and typing or working sedentary jobs or working in air-conditioned places, and they have to actually go out and work for their food and make their money by selling and providing for their community, they look at attractiveness on different levels. But notice how everybody here, universally, they're also not super morbidly obese either. And the reason why I brought that up is because in society today, people are often told there's nothing wrong with being morbidly obese, even when it's so unhealthy that you can't breathe properly. But if you look at any culture throughout history, the majority of people aren't that big, and there's a reason for it. It doesn't help humans survive unless you're super rich and have people waiting on you hand and foot. Being that size isn't practical. Humans weren't built to carry that much weight on their bodies. And that's why bodybuilders who are really bulky and overweight, even if it's mostly muscle, tend to look unattractive to most women. It's just not what's naturally appealing to the majority because, to be honest, from a human biology standpoint, really huge bodybuilders aren't attractive because they're not actually physically fit in the way that matters. That's why you'll often see MMA fighters or smaller, leaner guys who are in better shape outlifting or even outperforming these massive bodybuilders despite their size. Being big doesn't always mean being strong or functional. And if that's not how the human body naturally grows muscle, chances are it's going to look like an aberration. Now, yes, as I've said before, there are situations where if someone says something is beautiful and a mainstream narrative like a metaphorical king or queen declares something is beautiful, or the Kardashians, and everyone's like, yeah, you know what, because those rich people who are influential over society told us it's beautiful, then we're gonna strive to emulate it and agree that it's now attractive. People always bring up unrealistic cultural beauty standards, and honestly, yes, there's a lot of that is often shaped or tried to shape what people tried to attain or saw as desirable, and the mainstream narrative has done that with fashion models and makeup so they can decide trends, and there are always individuals who will follow them. Both men and women have done this throughout history. Sometimes it works, and other times it's true that cultural bias and media influence, often driven by those elite people and the people high at the top, affects how people in lower social classes view beauty standards. This happens because they aspire to attain what the wealthier or more attractive people have. This ties back to the example, the fuck is she doing? Anyway, it's like what I was saying about the example of the king and queen. If the king and queen say something is beautiful, everyone will want to emulate it, even if they don't personally agree. Over time, this imitation can turn into a societal norm. If that's the case, why are people not fully on board with what they're being told to find attractive in gaming and media today? Let's discuss gaming models, characters, and art styles in some of the modern games.
Concord got $400 million to develop this game.
Damn!
They had an absurd budget. So the idea that me, just some random guy, can point out these flaws and nobody in the design team could think of these problems is just unbelievable.
Mainstream is trying to tell people what's attractive. Why are the people rejecting it more often than not, though? It's not seen as culturally beautiful in our society. What are the reasons for this? First of all, these characters are not real, right? Video games embody fantasy. We've always been used to video game characters looking above norm. It's okay for them to not be realistic if that's the argument people want to make because video games are based on fantasy. Even for those games that are based on reality, it's still attractive for people to look at and want to play something or an avatar that looks better than they do. Most of us look average. Most of us will never look like the 2% of pretty people that are completely flawless. The people who have no specks on their skin and have perfect symmetry in their face. Most people and most of us are never going to be rich or have money, never be an issue, where we can just buy whatever we want and enjoy life the way it was meant to be enjoyed. We're never going to look like Henry Cavill or freaking supermodels. So we look for an escape in video gaming. The reason why pretty women and men sell like the pictures that I just showed is because fitness is attractive. Your body responds to visual cues telling you what is a suitable partner, what's good food, what might be dangerous, and all of this happens in an instant, by the way. Marketing, with every single product that you can think of, basically hijacks that part of our mind that finds things aesthetically pleasing by studying the human condition, psychology, and biology as well, you know, all the things that make us human. Simply telling people to see something that looks uncanny or not symmetrical or weird or not having the normal facial features or behaviors that people have when you're trying to tell the gamers that are playing the game that this person is a human is not going to trick their brain into thinking that's human. Even if you make the person look like an elf, if they're really beautiful because they're symmetrical or pleasing to the eye, gamers and people watching movies and shows are going to be more open to accepting it because they like looking at it. For example, this anime version of Princess Peach. Is she nice to look at? Does she make you want to turn your face away from looking at her? Or do you want to keep looking? Do you look at her and think, ugh, disgusting? Or do you look at her and think, goddamn, that's such a cute picture. I want to shove some meat in its grinder. Does this picture make you want to slap it or pet it? It's really that simple. If you have the positive reaction, you like looking at it, it's pleasing to the eye, it's pretty, cute, etc. If you absolutely loathe it and it evokes a visceral reaction from out of you that is negative, more than likely, it is not pleasing to the eye. It is ugly, odious, disgusting, unattractive. Here's some more Princess Peach pictures. Universally, if I were to sit in a room with a bunch of people, women and men, children and adults, what do you think the rating would be for this if there were 2 ratings to choose from? Good or bad? Pretty or ugly? Do you think this picture is pretty? Do you think it's ugly? It's really that simple. Again, an elfy version of Princess Peach, out on the town just enjoying life, seeing her friends flying off in the distance. Do you think this picture is ugly or pretty? Does it make you want to puke or look at something different? Now, aside from little things about it that might be off, if your eyes don't look too hard, you can say that the majority of this picture is decent to look at. It's not bad, and there are aspects about elf version of Princess Peach that might be nice to look at. For those of you who disagree, here's another example. Do you think this dog is cute? Or even this puppy right here? Look at them. Look how cute they are. I would argue that most people would agree with you that it's very cute. Even if they don't like dogs, they would agree. Now, the next picture. Tell me, do you think if this dog is cute? Look at it. When you see it, do you think, oh, I want to kiss it on its nose and hug it and put my face up to it and cuddle it and pet it? Want to bring it home with me? Or do you want to run away or make it back up a few paces because you don't want it right in your face? Do you want to get closer to it or farther away from it? Do you want to pet it or smack it? In this case, you probably wouldn't want to smack it because it'd probably bite your face off. See, look. What if I told you it was smiling because it's happy to see you? Is that what your thought was when you saw this? Or was your first thought, holy shit, that thing looks diseased or demonic and you want to get away from it? It looks like it's freaking possessed by some cholera or something. Likewise, this dog. What a good boy it is. Maybe it's had some sleep and it looks a little better now. Do you still want to kiss it on its nose? Maybe if it was your pet and you grew up loving it and raising it, you'd think differently. But the majority of people out there, what do you think they would think? Even if you'll have people look at this dog and say that, oh, it's cute, they would not be in the majority. I can guarantee you that's the case. The majority of human beings would find something like this extremely unsettling, and for good reason. The same thing with things like this or this, and even this. If you saw this in the middle of the woods, you'd probably think, it's just a big thing with holes in it, but that's not a natural occurring thing, and it's something very unsettling about it. I can't tell what it is, but it just is unsettling. See, cute puppies that look like this are unassuming, and we recognize them as not being a threat. We recognize them as being useful to us. There was a time when people looked at wolves and did not see them or think of them as cute. There might have been some who thought that they were ugly or just had an apathy towards wolves in general because the wolf probably competed with them for food or stole their children and ate them. I know where I live, around a lot of cattle farmers, people absolutely hate coyotes with a passion. And yes, if one of them killed one of my animals, I would hunt it down and kill it. However, to me, a coyote is just a cute wild dog or a smaller version of a wolf. I think they're absolutely adorable. We hear them all the time where we live. As a matter of fact, I know that there's a pack and there is a nest nearby because they're always singing somewhere on our land. It's even hard for me to watch hunting videos or culling videos of them because to me, they look a lot like my Shiba Inu. However, because coyotes are a threat to the farmers in my area, they have a completely different perspective. Why? Experience, adaptation, and evolution come into play. When human beings have learned over many years or generations through experience that something is a threat or dangerous, they do not find that thing attractive in the least. They may see it as vermin, a pest, or ugly. It might be terrifying, or at the most annoying, or monstrous and scary, and yes, all of those feelings together, ugly. So while I will look at coyotes and think that they're stupid cute, beautiful, and elegant animals and just want to befriend one, they look at coyotes, these farmers, and have no problem culling them, because as far as they're concerned, these coyotes, even though they're just trying to live, are preying on their animals and literally taking food out of the farmer's mouth. It doesn't benefit them survival-wise and actually goes against that. And that's why a lot of them see coyotes as vermin. That's why a lot of people see rats and mice as disgusting, even though I raise mice and I think they're very cute. People, and most humans that I know of, have learned to be afraid of mice and even be grossed out by them. I mean, a long time ago, there was a plague called the Black Death, which devastated Europe during the 14th century, and it was thought to be caused by some kind of bacteria transmitted by fleas that were carried by the black rats. And these fleas would bite infected rats, pick up the bacteria, and then bite the humans, which spread the disease to the human. Of course, now in modern times, we now know to blame the fleas mostly rather than the rats, as fleas and body lice played a much bigger role in spreading the plague because it was just easier to transmit the disease directly between people in crowded conditions. But yes, there were other diseases that could be spread by creatures like mice, who were responsible for hosting these fleas, or even just carrying bacteria in general. Mice also put their feces in food and got people sick if they ate it, that or their urine. I mean, you try to keep your food clean and then you have mice coming in and competing with your resources by eating them their way through the walls and placing their urine and feces and shit everywhere in your food, and they're very hard to get rid of. I mean, the city mice are one thing, but we have mice out here in the field and the sticks called field mice, or forest mice, or deer mice, and they carry something called hantavirus. It's why there are a lot of people now that like domesticated cats and don't see cats as vermin. Maybe there was a time while, like in Australia, when they saw cats as vermin because the cats were killing a lot of the native species, so they culled and killed off a lot of the cats until they realized they needed them again. All of a sudden, yay, cats are great because they directly benefited the humans. So we liked cats. We didn't have to be told to like cats or dogs. Their usefulness, efficiency, and the way that they're able to be integrated within our society and our social way of life were so seamless and advantageous that the actions kind of spoke for themselves. The difference, though, is that when people are being forced to find something attractive, beautiful, or attainable, it no longer works because, first of all, people have social media. The things that they used to see as unattainable or magical or mystical or mysterious, like the king and queen, or the inaccessible, are no longer those things. It's harder to trick people into thinking that this is the key to becoming more like the elites. Secondly, the ugly characters, or undesirable characters, unless the story specifically fits that design in an animated manner, don't really benefit humans or the people playing. So if the game is terrible, and the story is terrible, and the characters look like creepy animatronics from out of Gary's mod, people are gonna reject it.
Oh my god.
Now, there are games that are popular, or that have been popular even when the characters were ugly, because the gameplay was good and fun. As you can see here, yeah, Ark was one of those games. Disgusting. Ark and Atlas, as a matter of fact, are perfect examples, and those games were super fun. I really miss playing Atlas, by the way. You can see, like, look how you could just make your characters look like anything, and everyone chose to make their characters look like, I don't know, if like a discarded lab fetus grew up and became a person. No doubt, characters were ugly as sin. On the flip side, you can have games that are seen as terrible, but because the characters are very beautiful, you'll still buy them, or you'll still remember them. See all the special content on Steam, where the games aren't maybe totally great in terms of content, but it's okay because of, like, reasons. I think it's also important to note that if the people claiming that gamers should just be okay with the characters not being pretty for them, and it's their opinion that the characters look completely fine, they should also understand that if their games are not being bought or marketed well because the characters look ugly, that is a matter of opinion. And at the end of the day, the opinion of the consumer matters clearly if you want to make money. If you're going to give them ugly characters, you're going to have to give them something that benefits them, like good gameplay or a good story or good dialogue. You can't have the characters being ugly, then have bad gameplay, a bad story, and bad dialogue all wrapped up into one on top of that. It's not like they have to go in blind because there's already a repertoire of games that sold really well. using this winning formula, so that's something to draw on for these creators. Make something that people can get something out of. If I'm playing Minecraft, I don't necessarily care how my character looks because I'm usually playing in first person anyway. However, I do care about the aesthetic of the game. And there's so many different things that you can do, as well as servers that you can join. You can even put in texture packs and play the game how you want, custom tailored for you. In Mass Effect, the human characters weren't particularly super attractive or anything. As a matter of fact, most of those old games tended to have very ugly looking characters regardless, but I'll still go back and play them if they have a very good story. The story can easily... Stop.
Oh boy, is there a lot of cursed stuff on there.
Yay, I beat you!
When I play DOA or any fighting game for that matter, I mostly play the female characters because there's never gonna be a time in my life where I can do a spinning kick in high heels with big breasts spilling out of my clothes and have them stay perfectly in place and not be painful while they're being jumped and jostled around and kicked. Or have super long ponytails or pigtails rolling around all over me as I do twists and kicks. Obviously, that's not realistic, but I like looking at the pretty girls kick ass. The men were good looking too. The women were good looking. The characters are good looking, and for the outstanding non-human characters, their playstyles were fun and they still had very interesting designs.
こっちに近づいてくる
You need to follow Andrew Jert, Andre, Warjert, Andrew Jert, whatever. Follow him for laughs. And anyway, we come full circle to the intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet game trailer or reveal trailer. I don't think it's a bad thing for characters to look different. Just want to start by saying that. Not every female character is going to have long flowing hair, a perfect body, or exactly the same proportions. I completely understand that. That's understandable, but at the very least, if she's not going to fit the normal attractive standard for a feminine character, then at the very least, make her likable. Super Mario wasn't super attractive, but everyone universally likes him because the games are fun, the colors he wears are pretty, and as an animated as a little cartoon man, he has become iconic simply because his games were enjoyable. The game, The Little Nightmares was a very haunting game, but the story was decent, as was the gameplay. Outlast was another example of a decent game with a good story, even though the characters were all ugly and disgusting and the game in general was just very disturbing. I haven't yet played Mouthwashing, I bought it, but you can argue that the characters look like ass until you play the game and realize that because the gameplay is so good and the characters are so well done, you no longer see them as strange little boxy characters. You can actually feel sorry for it and fall in love with people like Anya. I think all of that's important. People will be willing to accept something that's unattractive if you give them something that benefits them or something to root for. It's why I use the analogy of dogs and why people find even the ugliest dog breeds like pugs adorable. Even though I think it's cruel that people breed them to look like that and to function like that to the point where they can't breathe or swim and have a host of respiratory and health issues for our sake of them looking the way we want them to look. Imagine if pugs looked like this, but they were also horrific little animals that only gave humans a disadvantage, or if humans didn't get anything out of loving them. They'd be considered vermin. Spiders are horrific and monstrous until you have one as a pet, and then you start to relate to all of them. That's another part of human biology that has been hijacked, and that's social relatability. Why are its eyes demon red? What is the purpose of this? Nature, really? Why? And did you know their eyes also glow in the dark? I like the big tarantulas though. You know why? Because they're fluffy. They don't look like those freaking sharp Tim Burton looking spiders with the spiky legs that look like eyelashes and they can stick it inside your eye and get lost in there. No thank you. Anyway, part of relatability is understanding what makes humans tick, understanding what the majority of humans like, and marketing things in that way. If you want people to accept something, slowly trickle it in gradually until they don't even realize it's happening. And that might not always work. What definitely doesn't work is ham-fisting things and telling humans to ignore their eyes, which are designed to find things beautiful for a reason, and gaslighting them into thinking that their bodies functioning on instinct is somehow wrong. People will eventually be accepting of some things, but it's okay for them to still have a preference for other things. You have to allow people to have that preference instead of forcing it on them. you'll find that human beings are a lot more accepting when that happens. And I think it's very true for most things in society, including our media. Anyway, I figured I'd make this video because some people probably don't know. I've seen a lot of discourse on the internet of people fighting and debating back and forth as to whether or not it should be a big deal to, as they call them, incel gamers having an issue with characters not being pretty. But if that were the case and it's just a game, bro, then why even bother changing in the first place? The same people who were saying that it shouldn't be an issue are the same ones who took issue with the way that games were before, with characters, men and women, looking beautiful. If it's just a fantasy and we shouldn't care, or we should ignore our eyes and it shouldn't matter, then if we change the characters to go back to looking conventionally attractive or fantastically so, then it shouldn't be an issue because, as they say, it's just a game. As I've said many times before, gaming is fantasy, and so whatever happens inside of these games should not really reflect what's happening on the outside. Sure, we can have some relatability to what's going on, it can inspire us, or we could walk away just saying that was a great experience and forget about it and never talk about it again. At the end of the day, it's very important that humans understand that the game is not real. The characters are not real. And the reason why we want to play them is to escape. And for us to feel like it's an escape, we have to like what we're seeing. We have to be drawn in, distracted, captivated, all of the above. And for that to happen, either the story must be good, but the graphics are simply not enough unless you're doing a specific type of game. Humans' strongest sense and their most obvious sense is that of vision. So if you can trick humans or captivate them utilizing their eyes, which is the most important thing when you're playing a video game, and then their ears next, then you'll have a solid consumer base. But if they're telling you that they don't like something, that they don't like what their eyes are seeing, maybe listen. All the games that have been successful in times gone by are successful for a reason. People still today will find games that they like, and they're usually finding them from the East. It's okay to take a page out of the other countries' books and see what they're doing to captivate audiences, or what's working in America now with the games that are successful. And have some inspiration. Or make something and take a chance and just hope that people like it. And if they don't, it's okay to admit that it's failed or they're not ready for it and try something else.